I discovered her infidelity, and it shattered my world. She said, "My husband died 6 months ago." But that wasn't the whole truth. Our relationship turned from casual to friends with benefits, and I supported her and her son. Then I caught her with another man, and everything crumbled. This is my journey through love and betrayal. Enjoy watching it. It was a moment that held the promise of something truly extraordinary. The atmosphere was relaxed, filled with joy and the sound of music. From across the room, I couldn't help but be drawn to her presence. Her beauty was impossible to overlook. She possessed the kind of allure that could captivate anyone with a simple smile. As the night progressed, I knew I had to find a way to get to know her better. Fortunately, our mutual friend was more than willing to assist. She played the role of an exceptional wingwoman, and I approached her to ask for an introduction. With her agreement, she guided me towards the woman who had caught my attention. My heart raced as we neared each other, causing me to stumble over my words. However, she was gracious and welcoming, making it effortless for me to initiate a conversation. Our initial exchange revolved around lighthearted topics, such as our favorite movies and travel experiences. Her personality radiated warmth, and it didn't take long for us to delve into deeper discussions about our dreams, fears, and the greatest adventures life had to offer. I was captivated by her intelligence, and her sense of humor perfectly complemented mine. As the night progressed, we exchanged contact information, and I couldn't resist sending her a text as soon as I departed from the gathering. Our messages quickly grew more intimate, revealing our shared desires and aspirations. We were already deeply infatuated with each other, but there came a moment of truth when she confided in me about her recent loss. Her husband had passed away just 6 months prior, leaving her with a 3-year-old son. The news stunned me, momentarily clouding my mind with uncertainty. I had always heard that becoming involved with a single mother could be complex, but her circumstances were unique. She had experienced the loss of her husband, thrusting her into the role of a single mother. Her beauty and the connection we shared were too precious to let slip away. Therefore, I made the decision to continue our heartfelt conversations. Eventually, we agreed to go on a date, which felt like the natural progression in our blossoming relationship. Following our date, I escorted her back to her place for the evening, marking the beginning of our friends with benefits arrangement. The mutual desire for each other's companionship and the undeniable chemistry between us fueled our bond as time passed. Eventually, we made the decision to transition into an official couple, despite the complexities of her circumstances. Not only did I feel a strong connection with her, but also with her son. It almost felt as though I was destined to fill the void left by her late husband. While the idea seemed far-fetched, it felt oddly fitting at the time. As we familiarized ourselves with each other's families, we attended various family gatherings together, intertwining our lives and making introductions. I was warmly embraced by her family, just as she was by mine. Our bond continued to strengthen with each passing day. Getting to know her son allowed my affection for him to grow, further solidifying my connection with her. Initially, I believed I had found a woman who embodied all the qualities of a traditional wife: caring, loving, and nurturing. Our love story may not have followed the conventional path, but it was uniquely ours, and I wouldn't have had it any other way. My life was filled with numerous responsibilities. As a part owner of my business, I dedicated long hours and traveled extensively. Socializing took a back seat, occupying only a fraction of my time. This led me to enter into a relationship with her. Given my limited dating opportunities, encountering a woman as remarkable as her compelled me to make her mine. Convinced that I couldn't find anyone better, she worked as a receptionist at an accounting firm, earning significantly less than me. I didn't think twice about showering her and her son with gifts or assisting with her rent during challenging times. While it presented its difficulties, I was more than willing to offer my support. After a year of dating, I was certain she ticked all the boxes of what I sought in a partner without any reservations. The decision to propose to her was a moment filled with pure joy. Before our marriage, I had acquired a house in my name, and as a co-owner of a business with my partners, It was essential for all of us to sign a strong prenuptial agreement to protect our business interests. She willingly signed the document, and we subsequently got married. Following our marriage, she expressed a desire for me to adopt her son, which I agreed to without hesitation. After 2 years of marriage, I saw no problem with this arrangement. The strong bond I had formed with the child made our wedding day a dream come true. I was convinced that she was the woman I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. However, once we exchanged vows and began living together, things changed. It became clear that cohabitation had an impact on her behavior. Perhaps it was easier for her to make excuses when she lived alone with her son. But now that we were under the same roof, those excuses no longer seemed valid. Our once active sex life started to fade, and it felt like I had more intimacy when she wasn't living with me. The initial happiness of our marriage began to fade, replaced by doubt and uncertainty, leaving me confused and worried about our future. She began displaying classic signs of infidelity, which I found increasingly difficult to ignore. She would hide her phone, come home late without explanation, and not answer her phone when she was out. To make matters worse, she started leaving her son with me when she went out with her friends, leaving me with the responsibility. Her behavior seemed very unusual, especially so early in our marriage. It made me question whether this was the true nature of the person I had married. I had hoped she would find happiness. Now, being with someone who is financially stable, a loving father figure to her son, and a constant presence in her life, I decided to have an honest conversation with her in the hopes of helping her see things clearly. She acknowledged her shortcomings and committed to making changes, thereby providing me with a faint glimmer of hope. Over the ensuing months, there appeared to be a marked improvement in our situation, and I clung to the belief that together we could surmount these challenges. On the day I was scheduled to undertake a 4-hour drive to meet a client in another city, I was informed that his flight had been delayed by several hours. This unexpected change allowed me the opportunity to return home to rest and refresh before embarking on the journey. Upon arriving, the sight of my wife's car in the garage greeted me as I opened the garage door. Initially, I assumed she might be unwell since she was meant to be at work. However, as I entered the living room, I immediately sensed that something was amiss. My cherished lazy boy chair and the adjacent table were displaced, a stark contrast to their usual arrangement when I had departed that morning. My confusion swiftly transformed into concern, and with my heart racing, I proceeded to the bedroom. There I found my wife lying on the bed, feigning sleep. The room was laden with a palpable tension, and an unmistakable scent of intimacy permeated the air. It did not take long for me to connect the dots. The disarray in the living room, her unexpected presence at home, and the lingering scent all pointed to one conclusion. In that moment, I realized she had recently been with another man in our marital home, and I had nearly caught them in the act. My emotions oscillated between devastation, anger, and disbelief. Despite her continuing to pretend to be asleep, I managed to maintain composure amidst the tumult of my feelings. Approaching her gently, I inquired about her well-being. She opened her eyes and weakly attributed her condition to a headache. A glance under the covers revealed she was undressed, an extraordinarily unusual state for her, which only deepened my suspicions. Concerned that the other individual might still be present in the room, I commenced a thorough scan of my surroundings. Although I was fairly confident that he had hastily departed when I opened the garage door, my spouse, on the contrary, displayed an unusual curiosity regarding my actions, repeatedly inquiring about the identity and purpose of my search. Her anxious demeanor only served to further convince me that she was aware of my suspicions and had been caught in a compromising situation. As my wife excused herself to the bathroom, I took a seat on the bed, burdened by the weight of an undeniable truth. For some inexplicable reason, I decided to pull back the covers, and my gaze fell upon an unmistakable stain, one that revealed the painful reality of what had transpired. It was an indelible mark on our bed, a cruel reminder of infidelity within the confines of our matrimonial bond. The shock and devastation coursing through me were overwhelming, and I struggled to comprehend the magnitude of the recent events. Years of experience as a salesman had taught me the virtue of patience and composure in the face of adversity. Despite the overwhelming heartbreak I experienced, I recognized that displaying my emotions would not contribute to a resolution. In that moment, I realized that I had been deceived. The woman I had believed to be my loving wife had never truly cared for me. She had been utilizing me for her own desires and pleasure. Just moments ago, she had been feigning illness with a headache, and now she nonchalantly emerged from the bathroom, casually drying her hair with a towel, and inquired as to why I had returned home early. Her audacity left me speechless, especially considering that I had nearly caught her engaging in an act of infidelity in our marital bed while she was supposed to be at work. I couldn't bring myself to respond to her inquiries. Instead, I rose from my seat and walked away, with her persistently trailing behind me, incessantly questioning my actions within the confines of our own home. I was acutely aware that I could not level any accusations against her without irrefutable evidence, as prior disputes had made it clear that confrontations were futile without undeniable proof. The enormity of the situation weighed heavily on my shoulders as I confronted the painful and unexpected disintegration of my marriage. Following a disturbing encounter at our home, my wife seemed to detect my anger but remained unaware of its origins. Upon entering my car, I rejoined the highway with a heavy heart and a mind overwhelmed by my thoughts. The 4-hour drive felt extraordinarily brief, consumed as I was by my swirling emotions and reflections. In pursuit of clarity regarding my wife's actions, I resolved to install a GPS tracker in her vehicle to monitor her movements. The burgeoning distrust grew whether I was at home or away on business trips. It was evident she was concealing something from me. Further complicating matters, upon my arrival in town for a client meeting, I received a text from my wife expressing her displeasure at my departure. Recognizing her attempt at reverse psychology, I seethed silently, which only intensified my frustration and suspicion. Resolved to uncover the truth, I procured a GPS tracker and discreetly installed it in her car overnight. Monitoring her movements revealed a suspicious pattern. Occasionally, she would return home during her lunch break, staying for 2 to 3 hours before going back to work. Such behavior was atypical for someone employed full-time. Additionally, while I cared for her son at home, she sometimes drove to a hotel, alleging she was visiting friends. Each revelation added to the mounting unease, ensnaring me in a web of deception and betrayal. Amidst this turmoil, the weight of betrayal bore down on me, a burden unjustly doubled. My emotions were in disarray. The feeling of betrayal, the sinking sensation of being left behind, and the shocking realization that she had been engaging in an affair right under my nose left me in a state of emotional turmoil. I couldn't fathom the extent of her deception, how she had brought her lover into our home, into the life of the child I had grown to care for since that fateful day when she mentioned her plans to meet her friend at the same hotel. I felt an overpowering urge to confront her, with her son by my side. I set out to find her, knowing roughly when she would return home, and took her son with me to the hotel. We positioned ourselves in the lobby, anxiously awaiting her and her lover to appear. Although the thought crossed my mind that they might exit through the back door, I pushed it aside. I was consumed by a mix of anger, pain, and the necessity to address the lies that had been festering. She had underestimated me, thinking she could deceive me and bring her lover into our home. The tension in the lobby seemed to drag on endlessly as I paced back and forth, holding her son and anticipating their arrival. The moment I spotted her and her lover exiting the building, the shock on their faces was evident. Their expressions were a blend of fear and disbelief, as if they had seen a ghost. I approached her lover, who I now knew was her married boss, and handed him her son. It was a spontaneous decision, one that I hadn't fully thought through. I was aware of his marital status due to work-related pictures they had posted on social media, and I had also seen his family. I informed him that he now had the responsibility of taking care of her son. Then I turned towards her and spoke with a voice filled with anger and finality, instructing her never to return home. The shock on their faces only grew as they stood there. Her boss, still holding her son, stood frozen in disbelief. With that, I left the hotel lobby and made my way to my car, leaving them behind in a state of stunned silence. I drove away from the hotel parking lot, leaving her son and his baby seat behind. It was one of the most challenging moments of that day, sitting in my car. A part of me considered going back to provide them with the essentials, thinking that they might not have anything for the child. However, my determination to stand my ground and maintain the decisiveness of my actions prevailed. There was no turning back now. I was resolute in my decision. I proceeded to a home improvement store, Home Depot, where I purchased new locks. As I drove, my phone rang and I saw her number on the caller ID. She was crying and pleading for a chance to explain and make amends. A part of me knew I shouldn't have answered, but I wanted her to feel the impact of my anger, so I chose to take the call. In that conversation, I unleashed all the pent-up frustrations and resentment I'd been holding on to. I insulted her, berating her for the deception, for marrying me seemingly for financial stability, and for using me to care for her son while having an affair with her boss. I held nothing back, making sure she understood the depth of my hurt and betrayal. She begged me, emphasizing the well-being of the boy and the fact that his belongings were still in our house. In response, I remained cold and unyielding, telling her that she could come to collect the boy's things. She expressed that she had nowhere to go, to which I replied, "I don't care." I gathered all the items I thought the boy might need and placed them at the front door, silently marking the end of our relationship. She arrived at my doorstep, her face filled with anticipation. Little did she know I had taken a decisive step to change the locks, preventing her from entering. As she stood there, it became evident that I was resolute in my decision, and she finally understood that I wasn't toying with her emotions. Instead of sending her belongings to her boss's house, I allowed her to retrieve them herself. The aftermath of the tumultuous events in our marriage brought about a whirlwind of change. Although I hadn't initially planned to involve her boss's wife, a surge of anger and betrayal compelled me to reach out on Facebook and reveal everything. Within a mere week, the consequences of her actions began to unfold. She lost her job and found herself without a place to call home. Seeking refuge with a relative, the most challenging aspect of this entire ordeal was the impact it had on the innocent boy caught in the middle. I had grown to love him as if he were my own son, and it pained me deeply that our bond had been abruptly severed. Life is never without its challenges, and I knew that emotional detachment would be a struggle for both of us. Amidst the chaos, her boss's wife made the decision to work on her own marriage. Being a stay-at-home mom with no financial support, my wayward wife found herself cut off from all contact with her boss. The divorce proceedings only emphasized her isolation in this difficult situation, forcing her to face the daunting task of rebuilding her life independently. Thanks to the prenuptial agreement insisted upon by my business partners, I was able to walk away from the marriage without any financial entanglements, leaving behind a past tainted by betrayal and deceit. The entire experience was transformative, altering my perspective on life and the dynamics of relationships. Once envisioning a future filled with marriage and children, I now found myself adapting to life as it unfolded before me. Carrying the lessons and scars of the past, I moved forward, embracing the unknown. Thanks for listening to One Infidelity Hit. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and drop us a like.